What is up, guys? It is AJ from MMA Experts, and this is the UFC Vegas 13 post-weigh-in full card predictions as well as the betting odds. So let's talk about this first fight. It's Anthony BirdShark versus Gustavo Lopez. Lopez, the former Combate bantamweight champion. Anthony BirdShark, he was a former UFC fighter, went over to Ryzen, had some fights, and also has fought elsewhere. He's gotten some good wins together, 3 in a row now. Granted, he did have a 3-fight losing streak in Ryzen outside of the UFC. In this matchup here, I think Lopez is going to be too much for him. I think the power is going to make a difference. As far as the weights go, nothing really to note. Both fighters made weight. BirdShark was 136. Lopez was 135 and 3/4. As far as betting odds, though, I will give you the most recent and updated odds here. Gustavo Lopez and BirdShark are pretty much a pick'ems. I mean, Lopez is sitting at a minus 120 favorite to Anthony BirdShark at a plus 100 dog. As far as the best places to throw money down, minus 117 over on Sportsbet is Gustavo Lopez, and then Anthony BirdShark is a plus 106 over at Bet Online. Not a big fan of any prop bets on this fight, besides potentially the fight going the distance. I don't know. I'm not a huge prop bet guy, but there are matchups where it could really work. Here, I have less confidence in a prop bet, but I will just quickly bring up just the fight going the distance is sitting at a plus 137 over at Bet365. If you guys are potentially interested in doing some prop bets, you can check some out, but I'm not huge on prop bets for this specific matchup here. Now, moving up to the next fight, Max Griffin takes on Ramiz Brahimaj. Let me quickly pull it up for you guys. Both fighters came in on weight. I think everybody on the card actually made weight and looked good. Max Griffin, he's got the new fro he's rocking. Both men very lean, very cut. Very ready for a tough fight. Brahimaj coming in, making his UFC debut. Max Griffin, a guy who has been around for a fairly long time in the UFC now. He has some fights. He beat Mike Perry. He doesn't have the biggest name, though, but he is pretty notable and a solid fighter. As far as betting odds, they are at minus 135 for Max Griffin to plus 125 for Ramiz Brahimaj. I don't know about a prop bet on this one as well. I don't like it. I like Max Griffin winning this fight by a decision. I think that's highly likely, and I think that's probably going to happen. There could be other ways for him to win, but less than likely. I will quickly look at the win by decision for Max Griffin prop bet for you guys here. All right, so for Griffin to win by a decision, you have a plus 165, that over at Sports Int, if you guys are looking to throw money down. And as I mentioned, no weight issues there. Both men came in on weight, 170 pounds for both of them. So they actually made that championship weight for that welterweight division here. Now, moving up to the next fight of the night, Darren Elkins, he returns against Eduardo Garigoi. I'm excited to see this matchup. Garigoi, I mean, he's pretty good. He's got some solid skills, but Darren Elkins is a guy that's extremely durable and also has that very tough wrestling background. And I think that wrestling skill is going to make a difference here, especially as durable as Elkins is. I mean, he's a guy that can come back. You cannot coast with Darren Elkins. He comes forward, he brawls, and he brings it until the final bell. I think he's going to beat Eduardo Garigoi here. I think he's going to do so in a pretty competitive fight. I could see it going the distance. I could also potentially see a late TKO win for Darren Elkins in this matchup. The weigh-ins didn't really change anything in my mind. Both fighters 145.5. They both look good. The betting odds are currently sitting at Darren Elkins, a pretty significant favorite at a minus 235 to Eduardo Garigoi at a plus 215. Let's look at prop bets, but this is another one. I'm gonna be honest, these first few fights I'm really not feeling any prop bets for, but I will look at Elkins winning this fight by a decision prop bet here. All right, so for Elkins to win by a decision, the prop bet is at plus 150 on a handful of websites that you can put money down and win something there. But still, the prop bet on a Darren Elkins fight's not great either because he could get a finish. He's a guy with TKO wins, but I'm not super confident that he does get a stoppage, but there is potential for it there. But moving on to the next fight of the night, we're going to the heavyweight division. This is one of those fights that I do feel more confident if you were looking to potentially place a prop bet on this matchup. Alexander Romanov, Marcos Rogerio de Lima. Big man, Romanov. He is a big boy. De Lima, not the biggest heavyweight. Good heavyweight, has power, but Alexander Romanov is on a different level as far as size and also grappling skills. I think Romanov dominates. I think he wins by TKO in round number 2. As far as betting odds, they are extremely widespread, minus 430 to plus 380. That in favor of Alexander Romanov, and I totally agree with the odds. But to make some money on this, you're probably going to have to throw a prop bet down. And if you really want to do it, it's risky, but it is possible. I like Romanov in the second round. I'm going to look at Romanov winning this fight by TKO. For him to win by a TKO, it's a plus 200. That over at William H. Sportsbook. Now, for Romanov to also win by submission, which is a lot less likely because De Lima's a little bit savvy with submission defense and whatnot. I'm going to give the possibility of it. Romanov winning by a submission is at a plus 140. So they actually see it as more likely he submits De Lima. I think that he actually more likely TKOs De Lima. So if you are looking for a prop bet, I think Alexander Romanov, TKO victory. Don't go crazy and try to pick the round, but a TKO win for him there. And he came in very heavy. He came in at 260 pounds, De Lima at 258. I mean, I guess relatively, he's not significantly bigger as far as the weight goes, but I just think his structure is just naturally a lot bigger, and I think he's going to have a big strength advantage as well. All right, let's move up to the next fight of the night. I'm super pumped for this one. I'm going to be honest, I'm pumped for every fight on the card, normally every event, but this one especially because we have Giga Chikadze versus Jamie Simmons, grappler versus striker. I mean, the height difference is fairly substantial, 5'5" to about 6 feet. You can see there's probably about 5-6 inches there of height, maybe 7. Who knows how accurate the exact heights are, but there's a fair height difference between the two. But Jamie Simmons is a good wrestler. He's a guy that can get opponents down and do a lot of work from the top. There's potential for an upset, but I think it's a low potential for an upset. I don't think it's a significant chance that we see Giga Chikadze go out there and lose this fight. As far as odds for this matchup here with Jamie Simmons, plus 600, he is the significant underdog. To Giga Chikadze at a minus 750 favorite. I'm going to be honest. So if you guys want to bet and are like, oh, I want to throw money on Jamie Simmons, there's potential, right? There is a slim chance. I wouldn't say throw the house on him, but I would say if you're looking to give yourself a shot, there's a chance with a very good grappler versus an excellent striker, but from the kickboxing background, I'm still favoring Giga. I think Giga Chikadze could potentially get his first stoppage win in this matchup, but a loss here is not impossible, and Jamie Simmons stylistically does match up fairly well. Still riding with Giga, but if you're looking to throw money down and you want to put something and maybe come out big, you might fall flat on your face. You might see Giga Chikadze dominate Jamie Simmons, but if the win was there, you're going to make a good amount of money at a plus 600 odds. Those are pretty good. And I would completely avoid a prop bet for this fight, even for Giga Chikadze. He tends to be a decision fighter. If you really want to throw a prop bet, you could do just a prop bet on this fight going the distance. That's a plus 185 over on Sportsbet and 5Dimes. But I'm not loving any prop bets for this fight. But let's move on to the next fight of the night. This one, though, should be a fun one, and I am really excited to see how these two match up with one another. Bevon Lewis and Trevin Giles. Let's quickly pull up the image of these two here. You see Bevon's a bit taller. As far as skill set goes, I do think he's a lot more diverse on the feet. Now, granted, yes, Trevin Giles has a lot of power and can box pretty well. And also his grappling defense is solid. I don't think it's anything elite level, I guess you would say. And at the end of the day, Bevon Lewis was winning against Uriah Hall over the course of the first maybe 2.5 rounds, right up until the end. In that third round where he was knocked out, I think Bevon Lewis has a good skill set, but Trevin Giles is no easy test for him, especially Lewis's last fight against Townsend was not super impressed. Townsend, durable, tough guy, but not elite level. I'm still going to ride with Bevon Lewis over Trevin Giles. Both these fighters make weight, 185.5 for Giles, 185 for Lewis, so nothing really to note on the weights there. But as far as the betting odds go, still very close. Bevon Lewis, a minus 115 favorite to Trevin Giles at a plus 105 underdog. I'm going to be honest, the bet on this one, it's a pick'ems. Even though I do believe Bevon Lewis will win, Trevin Giles has a legit chance. Definitely a legit chance. Prop bets on this fight, I don't like Lewis winning by TKO. I see a decision win for Bevon Lewis here. I don't think he's going to be able to stop Trevin Giles. It could happen, but less than likely. I think Trevin Giles is going to be very durable and potentially could land a big punch of his own. So I'll just look at the fight going the distance prop bet. The only one that I really like, it's a minus 170 over at Bet Online for the fight to go the distance. It's possible, but I would not do it. I would pass on it. If you guys want to go out there and do it, that is up to you. Personally, skipping a prop bet. If you want to bet on the winner in this matchup. Personally, I'd bet Bevon Lewis. But if you think Trevin Giles, hey, throw something down. Definitely a pick'ems fight. Let's move up to the next fight of the night, which I think is going to be a very interesting women's matchup with, I think, high stakes. Definitely high stakes. Claudia Gadelha takes on Jan Exian. I don't know exactly how to say her last name. It's very difficult to say. But I think Claudia and her are competitive, but I think Jan wins this fight. I think she's going to beat Claudia Gadelha. Claudia has not necessarily shown holes in her game. I mean, against Angela Hill, she had a very difficult time, right? And I feel like Jan puts her hands and punches together better even than Angela Hill, at least at that point. Angela Hill's really starting to develop. I think Jan is going to land big punches. I think she's going to be very aggressive from the start, and I think she's going to fend off any grappling attack that Claudia's going to throw at her, because I do believe Claudia Gadelha is going to need to get this fight to the ground. But I do believe that the wrestling defense of Jan will be good enough, and I see her winning this fight by a decision. As far as the betting odds, they do agree. Minus 155 favorite is Jan to Claudia Gadelha at a plus 145 dog. Prop bet on this one, another one I really don't like. I mean, I saw both of them at weigh-ins. They both look in very good shape, and I just see a lot of these fights. I see, at least in this matchup, I see it possibly going to decision. Especially with these women's fights, less knockout power. Sure, something could happen, but Claudia Gadelha is a pretty durable girl. She's been in there with some of the best in the world. And if she's gonna lose, she's gonna lose a decision. So if you want to throw money down on a decision victory for Jan here, I will quickly pull that up. Let's see if we can find it here. All right, win by decision for Jan is a plus 110. That over at William H. Sportsbook. Plus 110, it's better than just plus 100, but still not super substantial, and you are taking the risk. And if your girl wins and you bet, hey, I want to prop bet, I want to put money down on a decision, she wins by knockout, you're going to be disappointed. So potentially maybe just throw the 155 down for the $100 on Jan rather than the prop bet. But let's move on to the next fight of the night. This is a high-stakes matchup at the middleweight division between emerging contenders, guys that are really pushing towards that top 15. I know Ian Heinisch has kind of already gotten his shot at the top 15, has lost. Coming off a big win, though, against Gerald Mearshart. Brendan Allen coming off the win over Kyle Dawkins. He is good, man. I think Brendan Allen's grappling skills are something to take note of. He's a taller fighter here. He's lankier. I think the length of the legs potentially could be an advantage on the ground here. I like the jiu-jitsu practitioner in Brendan Allen, and I think he's going to win, potentially by submission in the second round. That's kind of what I'm feeling here, but I could also see the fight going the distance because Ian Heinisch is a pretty durable guy. He has been in there with some good grapplers, but never necessarily a good, or at least not the level of submission artist that Brendan Allen is. Derek Brunson's a brutal, aggressive wrestler with knockout power. Omari Akhmedov is a grinding wrestler. Both those fights losses for Heinisch. But this is the more of the submission specialty style of Brendan Allen, who's going to, obviously still be able to strike and keep up everywhere, but especially on the ground. And I'm riding with Brendan Allen here as far as betting odds. Allen's very slight favorite, minus 110 to Ian Heinisch at a plus 100. As far as prop bets, I don't love them. I'm going to be honest, prop bets, there's specific fights that you want to put prop bets down. This one here, I'm not crazy about at all, but I am going to tell you, Allen winning this fight inside of the distance, plus 285 on a couple of websites, 5 Dimes and Sportsbet. Not to win inside the distance for Brendan Allen is a minus 375. So they are expecting this fight to go the distance here. And I do kind of understand that. And I think it would be a big risk to bet on a Brendan Allen victory by submission or knockout, just finishing. I think better option here, bet money down on Brendan Allen to win the fight. I would do that personally. But at the end of the day, up to you guys. That is just my advice. Let's move up to a very big matchup. I think this fight here is really Raoni Barcelos' push. If he loses this, the likelihood that we ever see him in a bantamweight title contention is not there. He's an older bantamweight. I believe he's in his mid-30s. I think 35 to be exact. On weight, both fighters, as I mentioned earlier, everybody made weight. I think Khalid Taha's good. He has good knockout power, and I think he has a lot of upside. But I don't think he's ready for Raoni Barcelos. I think Barcelos is going to win this fight, and I actually could see him winning this fight by submission. I think getting this fight to the mat is going to be a fairly big advantage for Raoni here. I think we're going to see that. I think we're going to see some good grappling attack by Barcelos here. I still do lean a decision. I think there's potential for a fair amount of decisions on this card. And granted, the card could go down and we get all knockouts. Crazy stuff has happened. But in this matchup, it is close as far as skill sets goes. But Barcelos is just a bit ahead, in my opinion. And I do think he's going to win. And I think he's going to win in a fairly competitive battle over the course of the 3 rounds. I am going to pick him by a decision. As far as the odds, they're very one-sided, but I don't believe the fight is necessarily as one-sided as those odds will have it. I don't like that they're so one-sided. I'll read them to you right now. Raoni Barcelos is a minus 355 favorite to Khalid Taha at a plus 320 underdog. That's widespread. That's almost like guarantee towards victory, at least as far as the odds makers have it, which I think they're underestimating Taha a bit. I'm not saying go throw money down on Taha, but he does have knockout power, and Barcelos, 35 years old. Maybe, just maybe, this is the time to catch him. I don't think it will be. I'm still riding with Barcelos, but I am bringing up the fact that potentially age in that bantamweight division can catch up to you a lot faster than it potentially could if you were a middleweight. Or if you're a heavyweight, a guy that's 35 is young at heavyweight. A guy that's 35 at bantamweight, that's an old bantamweight. That's a guy that's been around for a long time. Granted, 15-1, beat Umar Nurmagomedov. The guy's kind of got all the tools in the game and a ton of potential and upside, but he is at the older side of the bantamweight division. Still riding with Barcelos. Prop bets, I like. In this matchup, I'm going to read you Taha win by knockout. They're massive. They're plus 900 on Sports Int. I think that's his most likely way to win, is if he catches Barcelos with something. For Barcelos to win this fight by a submission, it's plus 180 on a handful of websites. For Barcelos to win this fight by a decision, it's plus 210 on Bet Online. I think there's potential for a finish, but not super high potential. I think the defense of Khalid Taha is there, but I could see Taha getting submitted. I could see him being decisioned and grinding, or I could potentially see him landing a big punch. But I am going to pick the better option, which is Raoni Barcelos. That's my prediction of this fight. I think Barcelos gets it done by a decision. But let's move up to the co-main event. Arlovski, he takes on Tanner Boser. I'm excited for this fight. I'm really excited. I've said I'm excited for probably every fight on this card, but the level of excitement here is pretty high because Arlovski, legend of the game, this could be one of the final times we ever see him fight. Tanner Boser, very exciting up-and-coming heavyweight with a lot of speed, footwork, knockout power, and potential. And I think in this matchup, the odds makers do have it a bit too far widespread, and here's why. If you look at the size, Arlovski will have the height advantage. As far as weight goes, it's not going to be super significant, but he does have 12 pounds on Tanner Boser. Could it make a difference in there? Potentially if they got to the ground. On the feet, I think that will actually maybe advantage Boser because the speed will be there, and Arlovski's not going to be looking to grapple. I think Boser wins this fight. I think he lands a big punch and he knocks Andrei Arlovski out in the second round. But there is a possibility that Andrei Arlovski uses that veteran skill set and walks all over Tanner Boser and wins a decision. I don't think he's going to knock Tanner Boser out, but I could see a decision Arlovski. More likely, though, I see Boser winning. The betting odds, though, too widespread. Arlovski's a plus 275 underdog. Boser is a minus 305 favorite, so technically there'd probably be more value on Arlovski here. I still don't think he gets it done, though. The questionable chin, the age, I don't see it. I know he's talking as if he wants to make a title run, in his 40s. I don't believe it. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's a little bit too late for Arlovski, but I do think he can still stick around and have a lot of fun fights, but I don't think he's going to win here against Tanner Boser. As far as a Boser win by knockout prop bet, I do like that one. It's a plus 162 on William H. Sportsbook. This fight going over a round and a half, that's a minus 278. It's expected to go over a round and a half. Not the best one. If it was going to go under 2.5 rounds, plus 122 on 5 dimes, I could potentially see that happening too. But we may get surprised and see a decision. I could see this fight going the distance. I really could. I'm riding with a win by knockout for Boser, but I see the potential for a decision victory for Tanner Boser or even Arlovski, but more likely I think Boser gets it done. I think the youth wins this fight, but exciting co-main event, definitely. Now, main event, this is super high stakes. I mean, the winner of this fight wants to be in the title picture, and honestly, deservingly so. People can argue maybe Thiago Santos beat John Jones, or at least was very close to doing so. Glover has looked awesome as of late. I mean, the way he beat up Anthony Smith, that was pretty intense. Both guys at 205.5, on weight, ready to go. I knew they'd look fantastic. I knew they would come in great shape. The betting odds are widespread. Glover's a plus 205 underdog. Thiago Santos a minus 225 favorite. This is going to be Santos' fight, guys. I think he's going to catch Arlovski. I think he's going to catch Glover Teixeira here. I'm still thinking of Andrei Arlovski, but a guy in his 40s is Glover Teixeira. Granted, Glover is actually really towards the top of the division, and with a win, Glover's probably getting a title shot, or at least very close to it. If I was him, I'd probably wait it out, because you don't want to take a risk with one of these young lions. But I think Thiago Santos, though, does win. I think he's going to land something big on the aging Glover. I think there'll be a time. There may be 2 rounds to 0. It might be Glover winning the first 2. He might get him to the ground, but we may see something else. It's really a fight that anything could possibly happen, but I do think Thiago Santos is just so unpredictable and so chaotic that big punch is going to land. And I am riding Thiago Santos knockout. I believe it's in the 3rd round. He's going to land something very massive and put down Glover Teixeira. But I wouldn't be shocked if we saw Glover Teixeira go with a grappling heavy game and actually choke out Thiago Santos. We've seen a weakness in the past for Thiago, and that has been the grappling. But granted, he really has stepped it up over the years, and especially in the light heavyweight division. For me, I got Santos, but Glover's legit. And I really love Glover Teixeira, you know. He's a guy that's been around forever, but you can't just pick your favorite fighter. You got to pick the fighter that you think is actually going to win the fight. And for me, I think Thiago Santos definitely gets this fight done. Plus 205 is Glover Teixeira. Thiago Santos is a minus 225 favorite. I'm going prop bet Santos knockout. That's the prop bet I like here. I really see that as probably the way to go. I don't see this fight going the distance. Santos winning by knockout is kind of expected. Minus 137 on William H. There's definitely a chance for it. As far as this fight does not go the distance, minus 345 on William H. It's expected not to go the distance. For the fight to go over 4.5 rounds is like plus 240, over 3.5 plus 175. I think the odds makers are predicting that this fight ends in 2.5 rounds or less, essentially, maybe 3 rounds or less. I think it ends in the 3rd round. During the 3rd round, I think we're going to see a big punch be landed by Thiago Santos. I think Glover will be able to go 2 rounds with him, but I think by that point, something will land. Thiago Santos is a guy that can knock you out at any point, and at the end of the day, if you're standing in front of him trying to strike, he's going to land something. But don't be shocked if Glover goes in with a heavy grappling game, and just for fun, I will bring up Glover winning by submission here, the prop bet. All right, Teixeira win by submission, plus 600 on William H. Maybe. Unlikely, but maybe. Teixeira win by TKO, plus 750 on Intertops. Potential, unlikely. As I said, I mean, I'm riding Santos, but there's possibility. There's a slight possibility. Glover Teixeira is a legend of the game. He's been around forever. He's seen it all, and maybe he sees a flaw in Santos. Personally, I think Santos is going to go out there and knock Glover Teixeira out in round number 3. And I'm really excited for this fight. I can't wait. High stakes matchup. The winner would be in competition for a title shot with Israel Adesanya, who's moving up from the middleweight division. Granted, I think most likely Adesanya will jump the line and beat Thiago Santos or Glover Teixeira to a title shot. Unfortunately for them, but super fights are things that kind of get priority, especially by the UFC and what we've seen with these double champs. You know, there's the new trend of the double champ, and we know Adesanya wants to hop on that train. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. That is the UFC Vegas 13 post-weigh-in predictions for the full card and the betting odds and some prop bet ideas for you guys. I hope you all enjoyed. Make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. Also, guys, follow my social media, Instagram, Twitter, and I'll see you all in the next video.